give you kind of a bird's eye view of the room, and I'll focus in on different parts. But talk a little bit about the room in itself and the construction.
Well, thanks for that. Yeah, the room itself, so I built this room. I got really timing wise worked out really well. The last place I was in the Studio C over at Fantasy, and was over there for a long time, and started exploring the idea. Was having problems with the landlord, a whole bunch of other things, and decided it was time to explore, looking at building a different spot. And so through lots of conversations and all, Bob Hodes has been my acoustician for every place I've been in here in the Bay Area in the last 30 years, except for one spot. He's been my tuning guy. And so I brought Bob in on this build and said, Bob, like, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I've learned from the other rooms I've been in. Here's about the, Atmos, immersive space, formats, speaker placement, all of that stuff. And so building this room, we had done all of the work knowing the dimensions and what was going to be in it before the first shovel hit. So we did all of the pre-work to be able to go, this is what this is going to be like, and this is how we're going to do this. For example, bass trapping is up here. That's an open panel ceiling where the bass trapping goes up in front over the top here. There's about 3 feet of space up above. So rather than building out, we decided to use the space as much as we could for bigness here and do the bass trapping that way. So storage under the stairs, where does the furniture go? Well, I already knew the equipment I was using. I already knew like I talked about bass management and stuff. I already knew where the speakers would be to be time aligned. We worked on all of the angles. We did everything before we even showed up. Then when the shovel started going, we dug out way underground. It goes down about 3 feet below this. We had to build a slab and a retaining wall. Then there's drainage. Then there's conduit. Then there's another flooring. And then there's this flooring. So conduit for everywhere runs around in the walls and the floor and all. And so there was a lot. It was about 1.5 years to build this room. But by the time I got in and sat down and we did the speaker placement, because tuning, that's one of the things with Bob. I'm not using bass management and I'm not using speaker calibration stuff. They're all run full range. Bob's percentage, like what I like about him is that he looks at the room itself is 80% of it is speakers and placement of things in the room. The other 15% is treatment, walls, reflections, absorption, diffusion, stuff like that. And the last 5%, if you need, is maybe some sort of EQ to get the stuff you can't do that way. That's how we approach this, is that 80% of the work in here was done with where do the speakers go, where's the best spot for them, where's the listing position, where does the console go, where's the furniture, and how is that affecting the sound. Then the next step was to go in and look at all the first reflection points. And so we have all these panels, these still points who are doing a combination of absorption and diffusion at different frequencies that now are dealing with all the first order reflections. The acoustic panel treatment behind here is all in this ear band, but what's going on up above here, there's sheetrock. It's open space behind there for in some of these spots to help keep it live and natural feeling in here and not be too dead. So there was a lot of work done to that. Now that we got everything in there and we did all of this, there is a Meyer CP10 on every channel. It's an analog EQ that I'm using 2 or 3 or 4 bands, sometimes depending on the channel, to handle things that would not necessarily be able to get to by moving furniture or placement or absorption and stuff. So there is an EQ on every channel, but it's an analog, couple band EQ that's width and Q and such to figure and it's usually the low end that needs a little bit of work. There's usually low end energy is kind of the issue.
Probably the number one thing people always ask me is, what are those speakers that Romanowski has in his room? And if I'm correct, they're Focal Grand Utopias.
These aren't the Grand Utopias. The Grand Utopias are the 4-way. I did have those I did have those over at the on Mission Street. We had the Grand Utopias. That was a 4-way speaker. I actually liked the 3-way a little bit better. So the Grand Utopias were awesome, but for me, what I really liked was the 3-way version. And so these are and I'll get it wrong. It's either Scala or Stella, and I think it's Scala. This is the one right below the Utopia. Grand Utopias, and then these are called Diablos. So these are essentially the exact same drivers, just done in a smaller speaker. So focals across all the way around on the floor. I am using Neumann 310s in the ceiling. I really like the Neumann speakers. The 310s, I think, are, they make fantastic speakers. People have asked me, why am I using two different brands? Because I would always recommend using similar. For one, they translate great with the focals, but the other is that Focal doesn't make a ceiling speaker. It's not for lack of trying, not from lack of talking to R&D and having them try to build something, but to me, they don't make a ceiling speaker. They just have near fields that you can mount up there, but that's not what a ceiling speaker needs to be. So I really like the Neumanns for this purpose. Some of these things change. So I do have some gear that I'll use over and over again, and some things I have others that I'll pull in and pull out at times. And so at the moment, I have some things in here that don't always live here.
And sometimes you're just testing stuff out.
And sometimes I'm testing stuff. Right. So there's some stalwarts. There's some things I'll never get rid of. The GML compressor, the 2030, the mastering compressor, it's just awesome. It's supremely dangerous and awesomely powerful. So I love it. I wouldn't go anywhere without it. Same with the EAR 825. I wouldn't ever go anywhere without that. The other pieces here, I've just come across and been getting into Giraffe audio, and here are a couple of complementary pieces. They're either tube or solid state. I really like the sound of them. This one is a lot like the 825 in that sense that you have boost and cut, and is very sort of Pultec-y sounding, in that sense, just like what EAR is trying to do. This is more of a tilt EQ that has some really cool, besides the Baxendal, tilt function, it also has and I love this, they're non-labeled EQ points, so you have to listen, right? So plus and minus for those, and tube and solid state. I have the Burl pieces in there, so I'm using those as 16-channel D to A converters, A to D converters. I've got the extra ones here, so I'm doing 4 extra channels. Got to go out, got to come back in. All my stereo work is out of the box, so I need to be able to get out and get back in. I'm also using the Pyramix or the merging down. So you'll see down below, I've got the Happy down there. So I'm also using that. So I'm choosing my converters depending on, which project I'm working on. My headphone app, courtesy of Leslie Ann Jones, DCS Legend series. She's a legend and lent it to me. So I know a legend.
And then what do we? Oh yeah, you want to talk?
You know about this? So now we can say this out loud because you're part of this story. Is this piece right here? Yeah. Okay, so here's the story about this piece. This is why I can never get rid of this one. Is this master bus processor from Rupert Neve? I was doing a project for Dennis. I can say it out loud now too. I was doing something for Dennis with Rupert Neve Designs, and we started talking about stuff and getting into one of these. And he goes, well, if there's anything I can ever do for you, or something, just let me know. And I was like, well, what I really want is a black faceplate for this master bus processor. Oh, we don't do that. Well, where do you get them made? Oh, we get them made here. Would they do? Well, they could do black. Well, yeah, let me see. And so then he got back to me and he goes, okay, look, I can do this. We're going to do a couple of them because we want to keep one here in the shop, but we're going to do a couple of them as a test and see. And then Josh, who we both know Josh is Thomas, is awesome. Josh goes, okay, we'll do this. We'll send this to you and we'll put this in, but you just can't tell anybody. And I said, well, okay, I can't tell anybody, but people come into my studio and they take pictures and they're going to ask, because this is the only black one, there weren't any black ones or anything at that point. Everything was their Rupert Neve, their color.
That white, off-white.
That off-white thing. So he goes, all right, so we'll do this and we'll send it to you. And, and here you go. And, awesome. But you just can't tell anybody. So I made one more request. I said, okay, if I can't tell anybody, I upped the ante. I said, if I can't tell anybody, can you have Rupert sign the panel on the back? So Rupert signed the back panel on here. So before he passed, I've got his signature on the first black one of these. And you walked into the studio, I think right after I got it. And I remember you going, what is that? Oh my God. And I think you reached out to Josh because you know him. And you go, Josh, can I get one of these? Like, damn it. He just told him not to tell people. And then I got into other stuff. I think Warren came when we were doing the Produce Like a Pro. Warren came and asked me a question about I was like, well, here's the story. So I think that, that it got out there. And then a few years later, they started doing black versions because he kept getting calls from people going, well, I want one of those too. That's why these same kind of thing. That's how I have black ones of these. Pete Lyman also has a pair of black ones like this. So these are awesome, really for getting really fast transients and really knocking down actually the front end of the signal. They're limiters, but I put them on the front end of the signal to really stop spurious transients and things that happen so fast, get in, get out. But I'm pretty particular with gear. I don't want to stare at things with color to be distracting. I just want to listen. So I like to get all my gear black if I can. And I was able to do that.
That was a very similar story with the Whitestone audio box from Dave Rosen. Is I wanted one and I was like, Dave, I can't do white. And he was like, we'll make you a black one, but you can't tell anybody. And then they started making black ones because they were like, well, maybe we could sell black ones.
See, my thoughts of what I told these guys first is just make 10.
Yeah.
Sell 5 of them, like give 5 away, or, or sell 5 at a premium, and then donate 5 to Music Cares or something like that. Have Rupert sign, like make a premium version of unobtainiums, things that only, and then find a way to donate to charity, to Music Cares, to something.
This one, Rupert signed somewhere.
At the back of the panel. So inside, if you take this apart, the inside panel, this black panel's got Rupert's signature on it.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit about what's over here?
Okay. I did not want to have a rack for my ATR rolling around. So what I did, and I don't know if folks really know this, but Ampex ATRs are rack mountable. So I took it, I have an ATR 104. Here's the penthouse. Here's the controls. Here's all the stuff. If you take this plate off, there are rails. And it actually is 19 inches wide for a reason. So it fits in a rack rail. So I cut out a hole, put some rack stuff, and I mounted this in here because I didn't want to have a piece of furniture. I kept having to move it. So my ATR 104 has all my cards. It can do everything from 1/4-inch mono to 1/4-inch, stereo and quarter track, 1/2-inch mono, 1/2-inch stereo, 1/2-inch quarter track, and 1-inch. I've got 1-inch stereo on here too, but noise reduction and, so 4 channels as a 104. Stalwart machine. I mean, that thing is it's like what's that plane? The A-10, the Warthog, something like it's just a bulletproof, great sounding, great transport machine.
And then you got a turntable.
Spiral Groove, yeah, with I believe there's an Audio Technica on there, or is it the Lyra? I can't remember I have different cartridges for different things. You can see I think a supply of them sitting right there too, for different playback stuff, but really great turntable. This is, speaking of one-off kind of stuff, Ivana did this a few years ago where she made 100 rainbow colored Vox boxes and numbered them and did it for Pride Week. And so this is number 5. And then you got to have a cassette deck, got to have a DAT player to go with my turntable, and got to have there. So then the Blu-ray player for testing and playing back. The Storm Audio is the processor for which all of my multi-channel stuff. So the Apple TV and the PC with Pyramix and Apple Blu-ray player and stuff go through all of that. That all ends up on a at the moment, it's an AES 67 network. These two guys are separate. This is an AES 67 network that runs through the Anubis here. And so the Anubis and the Happy dealing with the merging, and they all come together over here. And then they all match with the machine room that's over there under the stairs. And then there's the second room, the production room with more stuff, gear and things, mic pre's and, and all that stuff.
But this is the main room and where the magic happens.
This is where the magic happens. This is where I spend 18 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Awesome room, man. And then I'll just conclude by panning on Michael's Grammys here. Yeah.
Super fun. I'm just honored to be part of those. It's just amazing. But I'm happy to have a room. I you know what? This is building this room. Some of the things that, there's that bittersweetness of getting, the self-questioning of commercial space. And I really avoided wanting to build this room. I did not want to have a home studio. But if I was going to do it, this is at my house. So we lifted the house. We didn't say this earlier, but I lifted the house and built these rooms under like unused space, and dug down pretty far to do so. But I'm totally Rogersing it, whatever, my Mr. Rogers neighborhood. I have my slippers. I walk down, I put on my work slippers every day, and I realize I have them on now, but I finally get a window because it's up high enough. I get some natural light going south, which is awesome. I have I'm just here all the time, but it's so comfortable, and it's just I couldn't be happier being in this spot.
Crazy quiet in here. Well, cool, man. Thanks for giving us a tour, and lovely room. And yeah.
Happy to have you here, and thanks for having me for this. I always love our conversation. So thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Now let's go drink some more coffee.